All right, since we are just a couple of minutes after 10 o'clock, I figure we will go ahead and get started. I do know that we still have a lot of people jumping in, and I assure you, you will get caught up with this. A couple things before we really jump in and get started here. I want to thank everyone, number one, for signing up and being here today. For anybody that does not know who I am, I'm Aaron Stelle. I'm the VP of Marketing here at WFG National Title. And what I wanted to do with this course is I've taken a lot of business planning courses and been either teaching or part of them over the years. And I found that most of the different courses that I've taken left me with something missing. And so what I've done is I've created my own little spin on kind of how I like to go through this process. Hopefully you guys enjoy this. It is going to be a workshop. It's going to be a workshop style class. So there's going to be a lot of time where I am not talking. So I would encourage you to either grab a pen and paper, grab a notes or set up a notes app or something like that on either your computer or your tablet, because this is meant to be something where at the end of the day, you do walk out with something. Now, with that being said, we're all experiencing the change in what's going on in the market, and there's we can feel it, we can see it. The conversations are different, and we're constantly looking for, people to partner with that are going to help us get through these hard times. And at WFG, that's something we definitely want to do with you. We want to be your partner. We want to help you build your business. We want to help you get through all of this. And so this course or this class or this workshop is kind of step one, but we do have a ton of people and support that can help you with that. I don't want to dive in too deep as to all of the different resources we have, but just know that we would love the opportunity to sit down with you. I'm going to go into some of the ways that we can actually help out. Do reach out to your WFG sales rep, or if you hear from your WFG sales rep, have a conversation with them, because this is something that we are going to do together, and we will be better off for that. So with that being said, now that we're a few minutes after the allotted time here, I am going to bump to the next slide. And there is a workshop or a worksheet that I'm going to be walking through. So if you want to download this to follow along, so that way you can actually have it, you can scan this and be able to pull it up on your phone, or use that link to be able to grab it. Once again, if you just have a pen and pad, a paper, that will do just fine. If you want to jump in and use your actual notes program or something along those lines on either your phone or your computer, that will also work. I also would like this to be, I know over Zoom here and in webinar format, it's a little harder to have interaction, but as we're walking through the scenarios, as we're walking through the different sheets, I would love to have you guys type things into the actual chat to help participate a little bit. We're going to be talking about things that have worked, things that haven't worked, things that you're trying to accomplish this year, things that you're seeing. So there's going to be a wide range of conversation pieces, and I would love for you guys to share the things that you're seeing, doing, and how you can actually help out your fellow agents and lenders here. So with that said, I'll make sure that I leave this up for just another minute or so, because I want you guys to be able to download this. I will grab the actual bit.ly link and I will throw it in the chat as well, just so you guys do have that. So once again, it is bit.ly, bit.ly /WWI 20 or WMI, sorry, WMI 2023. So let me throw that in the chat real quick. My chat says disabled. Let me make sure that I have that. That's bizarre. It should allow chat. Thank you. Let me play with that for just 1 second, because you should be able to chat. Well, I know we can at least use the Q&A for right now, so I'll answer that for you. So go ahead and type into the Q&A. I'll try to see what's going on with the chat, if because it should allow everyone, but I want to just make sure that that's accurate. Okay, let's try that now. I think I've got it set up to where now you can chat with everyone. So once again, please do go through. Oh, thank you, Corey Joe, for grabbing that link. I'll go ahead and throw this thing in the chat as well. You should be able to chat at this point in time. So I'm going to throw the link in, and then we're going to go ahead and get started. Hopefully everyone has their the QR code worked as well. Fantastic. All right, now things are working. So we're plugging along. Sorry for the technical difficulties, but let's get going with this, because what I want to do is I want to dive into the way that I go about business planning and the things that I see that help out. And the first thing that we're going to talk about is WMIs, or what's most important. And where this came from is I was fortunate enough to go to it was a conference, and it was actually in Banff, Canada this last year. And it's a marketing conference that brings people in from all over the world, across all different brands, against all different industries. And one of the guys that really grabbed my attention is this guy, Scott M. O'Neill, who was the CEO of he was the Philadelphia sports teams. And so if you ever remember the trust the process words that were used back, this has now been about 10 years ago or so, he was the architect behind that. And if you're not familiar with what trust the process was, it was that the Philadelphia 76ers were, by every metric, the worst team in the NBA. They had a huge salary. They had no room to actually make any moves, and they were still just awful. So what they basically decided to do is trade away all of their good players, get more young players, and intentionally tank for several years in a row. And what they said is, like, look, we know we're going to be horrible. Stick with us through this process, and eventually we'll come out on the other side and we'll be better off. So it's one of those things where he had to go through and get literally people that pay a lot of money to still show up to watch a team that they knew was going to lose, and that they were intentionally trying to be terrible. And so he had all sorts of stories about how this affected him, how he had to communicate in different ways, how it it put a strain sometimes even on his family. And so he wrote this book, Be Where Your Feet Are, because what it did is it gave him a different perspective, because he had a catastrophe in his life. He had a really close friend that passed away, and it sent him to kind of a really tough space. And so the point of this whole conversation and getting into the WMIs is, as we're pushing through this market, there are going to be times where it's going to be hard. There are going to be times where, you're going to want to not do that extra thing, either, make the call, send the text, show up for the showing, hold the open house. And you have to go back to, why am I even doing this? What is the point? This is the foundation of, what it is that's going to keep you striving through and really grinding it out when you need to. So when we move on to this next slide here, this is where we're going to start with the actual workshop portion. So the first thing we want to look at is when you're talking about what's most important to you in 2023, what are three words or three phrases that define for yourself what's most important? Why are you doing this? What is it that, and I see we've got a couple of hands raised. Go ahead and type your questions into the Q&A or into the chat if it's something that everyone can see, or if you want it just to me, you can even just type directly to me. But if you want the Q&A, I can answer your questions. I see a couple of hands raised. But going back to this, let's start with self. I want you guys to take a minute and think about, in 2023, after this craziness where we have been just running all over everywhere, the market's been absolutely insane, and you've probably actually been giving a lot away without getting a lot in return. What are three things that are the most important to you for yourself? And if anybody's feeling bold, I would love for you to throw those in the chat for others to see. I know a couple of things that I've heard from a self standpoint that I found kind of interesting, in some of the ones that I would use for myself. One, and this is probably, I love it, Amanda's sharing sense of accomplishment, financial security, meeting and helping people. That's fantastic. For me, it's a couple of things. One is truly unplugging. So unplugged was one of my things, finding ways and times to actually turn my phone completely off, not even have it around me. The other way that I would choose this is I want to get deeper with relationships, which we're going to get into on the next column. But when I'm sitting with people, I want to keep either my phone in my pocket or in my backpack or somewhere else where I'm not leaving it on the table, and I'm end up paying attention to people that aren't even around me or present instead of the people that are around me. So balance, getting in shape is one that I've heard quite a bit. Eating better is one. Exercising, something that I've heard. Meditation or quiet time are some of the ones that I've been hearing and seeing. So there's a lot of them out there, but I want you to think hard about what is the like when you're going through these struggles, like what would you do for yourself? And clearly you can see what's on the screen there. So if you want to jump into the next one, what are 3 things you want to do that are important in building relationships or creating relationships? And this can be that, this is obviously up for interpretation. Traditionally, when we talk about relationships, this is like close friends, close family, partners, whatever that may be. Those are traditionally where people go with this, but it could be something where you're wanting to, get back into, groups where you're seeing acquaintances and you want to spend more time with other people. One of the kind of byproducts of the last few years is a lot of people used to have activities, say for example, you were on a sports team or you had a trivia night where you'd go meet people or you would just go walk with friends, and that got so disrupted that it never came back. So like, how do you want to rebuild those relationships? Once again, I'm going to give you guys just a minute here. I give you a little time to write these things down, because underneath that, you throw your 3 words or phrases. I want you to write down why you chose those words or phrases. And once again, if somebody's feeling brave, I would love to see anything that you have that you feel like is important enough to share with the group that they may find valuable also. So no need to be shy. And life balance and personal growth are 2. I saw that one come up. I love those because there's I've had a lot of conversations with clients lately, and a couple of things that have happened is it was so busy and so hectic and everything was on short constrained timelines that people felt like they had to just be available all the time, and basically life balance is what got thrown kind of to the wayside. And so that is that's one that you're going to need to find balance, because otherwise you're going to get burned out. And if you're going to stay in this industry and you're going to continue to do this and serve your clients properly, you have to find some balance there. Personal growth, I love that one also, because there's if you're not learning, you're regressing, and so you've always got to be finding ways to move forward. And consistency, Kathleen, is, I mean, as we know in this business, that is the most important thing you can do, is consistently be doing something. And hopefully it's the right activities, which we'll dive into in a little bit. But being consistent with your relationships, being consistent with your conversations and your communications, being consistent if we're talking about business stuff, because that's what we're moving on to next. That's what's going to continue to keep you in this business. That's what's going to allow you to not have to have the huge up and down cycles and be able to just continue to cruise through and be consistently busy also. And with that being said, let's move down to the last one, which is your 3 what's most important for work. And with the work one, I've seen multiple things come out of this. I've seen some where it is more where you're trying to kind of use work to get something. Like for example, what's most important for me is to be able to make enough money that I can give back to a charity, or that I can buy a beach house, or I can buy a rental property, or I can become more financially independent. But I've seen the other side of it where it's like, no, with work, what I want to do is I want to be more consistent. That's one of the, like, where I want to have this thing where I'm consistently being out in front of my clients, so I'm not ever stressed or worried about what's going to come next. I've also seen inside the work stuff, where it's like, I want to create boundaries. I mentioned before, unplugged was one that I found interesting for the self. But the portion where it's like, nope, creating boundaries, where nope, for work, what's most important to me is that I create these deep relationships with my people, but I do it in a way where I still have a little time for my family, my friends, the things that are most important to me and what I'm trying to accomplish. So the work one, this one can be a little more personal in regards to what are you trying to do? Is it life balance? Life balance can be another one with work. And that's the same as setting boundaries, or potentially unplugging or doing some of the other things. But go ahead and write these down. And what we're doing with this, I'm going to give you, I know I've been talking quite a bit. I'll give you guys a little silence here shortly. But the point of going through this what's most important exercise, your WMIs for 2023, this is going to be the foundation for why you do everything else. It's going to be the foundation for why you why you interact with your clients a certain way. It's going to be the foundation for how you go about talking to your clients. It's going to be the foundation for really what I want this to be is I want it to be the foundation for why you do the business. It's what's most important to you, and it's why you continue to get up every morning and continue to stay in this business. So I'll give you guys just a couple more minutes to go ahead and put this in there. Once again, for anyone that got here late, I'm going to go ahead and throw it in here again. The bit.ly link to everyone, it's in the chat box right now. So if anyone out there did not get the actual workbook, go ahead and just click on that link, and then you can download a copy out of Dropbox. So hopefully that works for you. All right, I can't see your faces because of the format here. I always love it when I can actually, put people on the spot and ask them what they put down there, but I won't force anyone. So what we're going to do now that we've established our basically what it is our foundation, we're going to move on to the next spot where when we're thinking about our actual business for 2023, we're going to do a start, stop, continue exercise. Except we're going to go the opposite direction. So for the first thing that we want to do is we're going to think about the things that you want to continue to do because they've been successful. And I want to put a couple of super clear caveats on this. Number one, a lot of the things that you probably do throughout your day does not lead to a transaction. So anytime we're going through any of these steps on this keep, start, stop, or this start, stop, continue, I want you to go back to your production from either this year or the last 12 months, maybe 18 months at the most. And I want you to think of every single transaction that you had, both buyers and sellers. And I want you to think about where that came from. So if you can't drive or draw a line directly from a transaction to an activity or a person or a marketing system or a postcard or whatever else, then it's not something that was successful. So what we want to focus here is I want you to do an audit of where you got your transactions. And that's the stuff that we want to continue to do. There's a lot of things you do that may make you feel good. There may be things that you do that they're just, they're obligations that you just have to do. But on the continue, write down the things that worked that led directly to a transaction. The other side of this is we're not going to dive too much into the financial stuff either. But what I would suggest is two things. One, print out all of your transactions, figure out exactly where they came from. And two, go back through at least a quarter's worth of your bank statements. Hopefully you have a business account where you keep all of this stuff separate, so it makes that really easy. And figure out where you're putting your money. And what we want to look at is, are you spending it in the right places? And is the amount of money you're spending having the results that you're looking for? So the two different things. And with the continue, it's funny. Two of the things that we don't often talk about in a business sense like this are one, time, and two, relationships. So there is that sense where you're like, well, it's not really costing me anything. It's just my time. But when we're talking about business, your time is important because you have a finite amount, And if you're spending time on doing something that's not leading you toward a transaction, then it's something that you should probably stop doing, unless it's just for your own personal health or gain, or it's something you want to do. But there are a lot of relationships out there and activities that you do that are basically taking away from things that you could make, or that you could be going out and doing things that will make a bigger difference inside of your business. So write down the things that worked in the last 12 to 18 months, and that's our continue. And once again, I know I can't see you or put you on the spot, but if anybody has something that worked, especially something fun, I've had some interesting ones over the years, that I've find interesting, where they're like, no, this just works for me. For example, I had a presentation I was doing. This was just a little while back, and one of the agents in there, who actually does a fair amount of business, she's very successful. She said she went back and audited her business, and she basically figured out that 4 people drive almost all of her business. And she's like, why am I spending time on all these other things? What I need to do is continue to spend time with these 4 people. And in her words, she's like, hell, I should be partying on a sailboat somewhere with those 4 people, because that's what's going to keep my business moving forward. I see a brave soul popping up. Oh, that's not what that was supposed to do. So I see weekly forest park hike with your client and the dogs. That's fantastic. And I love, because it can check so many boxes. That's something that can, be on your what's most important, as far as like your health. It can be part of your relationships, but it can also be that thing that just keeps you there. And what we see is most agents, especially agents that are referral and relationship based, which is a good chunk of you out there, things like that are important. It helps you build a relationship, and it keeps them sending you clients. Volunteering on a board, working with local organizations, that's fantastic. And that's on, but that one, Amanda, I'm not going to say that you're wrong on this, but I also see that one can be a slippery slope. So there's the volunteering and the working on a local organization. I've talked to a lot of people over the years that did that. Number one, because it feels good. And if you're doing it for those good reasons, by all means do it. But if you're not getting deals out of it, don't try to tie it to work if you're not actually getting transactions. We see people that have spent hours and hours, per week or per month working with these different organizations, where they'll never ever get a referral out of there. And so while it can make you feel good, while it's a good thing to do, sometimes that actually does fall into the stop category, because you're like, look, this isn't, it's not something that's going to benefit me. Now, I'm not saying be selfish and don't do those kinds of things, but I like to put those in separate boxes. The what's most important feel good box versus the actual, this is going to generate business, this is part of my business plan box. And so it can be on your what's most important without being on your continue or your start or your stop. Now, with that being said, okay, we've talked about the things that worked. Let's jump over to the stop. What has not worked? And things and examples that we see here, these are a lot of times easy. It's paid for a CRM that you either haven't been using, or it's you never. I literally sat down with clients that have paid for 2 or 3 different subscriptions, and they've never actually implemented any of them. So stop doing that. This can be I've been part of an organization, say like a referral group or something like that, and you've never gotten any business out of that. It's like, nope, that time back. It can be it can be something like, I've been marketing to this neighborhood, or I've been farming this neighborhood for 8 years, and I've still never got a transaction out of there. Okay, let's look at a different one that has a higher turnover rate, or that might be a better fit for you. So stop doing that. One of my favorite ones, this was a few years back, is there was a agent that we were sitting down with, and he had gotten a phone call, and he'd been talked into spending money to be the sole agent in the magazine that they have at a mortuary. And the pitch on it was, hey, these are people that are unfortunately dealing with a loss in the family, and they're going to need an agent, because a lot of the people that pass away need to sell their house. So this is your opportunity. And oddly enough, it hadn't worked, at least that I had heard of recently. And so it was money spent, and it wasn't something that they wanted to continue doing anymore. But it was something that, they're like, okay, this makes sense, I'm going to try it. So that could be a stop also. And this is the other time where I want to point out, and I I don't mean to beat this over or beat you over the head with this. This can also be people. One of my this is a long time ago in my career. I remember going through Buffini training, and one of the things that Brian Buffini said is, if you have jackasses in your database, get rid of them, because oftentimes jackasses hang around with other jackasses. And so I want you to think about, the types of relationships you're looking for, and if you have those people or those clients or those referral partners that are just sucking the life out of you, they're taking and not giving anything back, put that as a stop. This can be your chance to say, all right, I'm going to go out and explore other opportunities in order to have something new and fresh that isn't actually taking away from what I'm trying to accomplish. I know a couple of you were generous enough to put stuff out there on the continue. Does anybody have a good stop where you're like, well, I just had to try it and see if it worked, and sure enough it didn't, and now we're going to stop? Nope, nobody's coming through with me on that one. All right, so let's move on then, since we're plugging along here and I'm trying to keep everything on track. Let's go to the start. So perfect, Angie. I appreciate your honesty there. That's the whole thing is schools. I've actually heard that one a lot. But I've heard schools. I've actually heard the that always triggers to me the people that you always get calls from about putting your name or your business card inside of a high school like basketball program, or the bench at a golf course, things along those lines. Those traditionally end up falling into the stop category. But with Angie, I know you said you're new to the business here. This is your opportunity to think about, you're going to have a slightly different variation on this, because you're going to have a few continues, and then you're going to have a different set of rules for the starts. So when we jump over to the start, and I mentioned at the beginning of this that we're going to go backward. We want to jump into the start last, because we want to know, okay, what's worked, what hasn't worked. Okay, I've had a million ideas over the course of the last year, all of which I thought were genius at the time. But what happens if you create a long list of these brilliant ideas is usually nothing happens with them. So what we want to do with the starts is we want to limit this to 3 at the most. There's a reason we did 3 with the WMIs and or what's most important as well. Because if you have something that's 3 or less, it's something you look at and it's something you feel like you can accomplish. There's a psychological piece to like, all right, I can get this done. It's kind of like when you go to a restaurant and you look at a menu and it's got like 6 pages and there's pictures all over, and you have to decide what you want to eat. What traditionally happens is you stare at it, and you have a really hard time, and you end up just like grabbing something because you become overwhelmed with it. The start list can be just like that. So with start, we want 2, maybe 3 things that you want to start and you want to implement into your business. And this can be a wide range of things. This one, I've seen everything from, I'm going to, invest in a system or a program like a CRM. This can be something where it's like, I'm going to start farming. This can be, I'm going to start volunteering somewhere. This can be, I'm going to start throwing client parties. This can be, I have seen a million different things in the start category. And some of it's even, I'm going to create a whole new brand. Some of it's, I'm going to move companies. Some of it's, I'm going to start a team. I have seen so many things on the start. But they're all personal to you. So once again, we don't want 10 of these. 2, maybe 3 things is all we're looking for in the start. Once again, do we have any brave volunteers out there that want to put something that they want to start this year? Time blocking. Yep. That's another great one. More client events. I like that one. I think, when we're talking about client events and even time blocking, those are great things that we're trying to do. The huge thing that we're seeing right now from a consumer behavior and a consumer standpoint, so your buyers and your sellers, is people are craving personal communication. They're craving, relationships with, the call it whatever you want, the toxic nature of everything online. it's it's hard to create, these solid relationships. And so using things like video, having more face-to-face conversations, having client events, that allows you to rekindle and get these relationships back to where they used to be before the last 3 years. Because what we've had this sort of abbreviated relationship where so much of it's just online or through text or through, social media. And I'm not saying those things aren't valuable tools and worth doing, but we see a lot of people that are craving connection. And that's why I do love video marketing. One thing that I will, for both of you that are saying videos, we're seeing so many people dive into that. And my one huge piece of advice that I'm going to give you on that is just do it. And the reason I say that is it's hard for all of us at the beginning. We're always going to struggle when we're seeing ourselves on video, and we're always our most harsh critic. And with that, when you see how you look, when you see how you sound, you're probably going to say something along the lines of, "Oh, do I really sound like that, or do I really look like that?" But at the end of the day, everyone else that knows you, your friends, your family, the people you're sending this video to, they all know what you look like. They all know what you sound like. And the only one that's not accepting it is you. So I would say just jump out there, do it. Like basically it's the old adage of like, break things and move fast is kind of what we're looking for. So just iterate, you'll get better. I promise it will get easier. And the best way to actually make video marketing happen goes right back to what Amanda said, time blocking. Put it as an event on your calendar or a meeting on your calendar that cannot be moved. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and keep plugging along here and get to the next step. So, as we've walked through this, the first portion, the WMIs, was meant to go through and be, your why. This is why we're doing what we're doing. This is why we're going to continue to do what we're doing. You jump into the start, stop, continue portion. This is more of an analysis. This is going to be like, okay, this is what's worked. And once again, I really want you guys to focus on what is it that you can draw a straight line to a transaction, or a straight line to a potential client, or a straight line to a current client. That's what we're looking for with this. So for business building, that's what we want. So continue to do those things that are working, stop doing the things that aren't, and start doing the things that you think will actually take the place of what you actually took off your list or out of your time. So that's where the start and stop go together. So for whatever you stop, that gives you time, or that gives you money, or that gives you ability to start something else. So this keep, start, stop is something that I would honestly go through this exercise. Once a quarter might be a little much, depending on the types of marketing or the types of things you're doing. But at least 6 months in, I would make sure that I have this up there. I go through this process again, go like, all right, we're halfway through the year of these activities that we're doing. What's been working, what hasn't been working, and of all the great ideas I have, which one do I implement next? And with those 2 or 3 things that you write down, don't put another one on the list until you check one off, because you either started it or you decided that you didn't want to do it anymore. So it always stays at 2 or 3. It's a rolling list. But don't keep adding to it unless you've checked something off. All right, moving on to the next thing. So now we've gone through and we've set up our foundation. We've analyzed, what has worked and what hasn't worked over the last 12 months or so. Now we want to talk to, okay, we've got to start talking to our clients, and we've got to get a little better at our pitch as to why me. Like, why am I going to choose you as an agent? I'm sure you've seen all the numbers out there where there's, more agents than available transactions. You've seen, what is there, 11,000 agents, I believe is the number I just heard in the Portland metro area. So I think that does include Vancouver, but regardless, that's a lot of agents. So what I want to do is I want you to be able to very clearly articulate, when you get an opportunity because you're doing the right activities, what is it that your clients appreciate about you the most? What do they say? So this is their opinion on why they choose you. And I know, talking about yourself is oftentimes fairly difficult. But in this situation, if it's something where, um, you've recently gone through and gotten reviews, that's a great way to get started. So integrity and sense of humor, I love that one. One thing that I would say, and this is going to be on our next page also, is while I do think these things are, so actually they're foundational in our business. Communication and knowledge aren't the things that I believe you should be putting down here. Because if I've ever heard anything from like all the agents out there, I've never heard a single agent tell me that they don't communicate well or that they're not knowledgeable on the market. And the reason for that is that's the minimum bar. So what are the things outside of solid communication, and what are the things outside of being knowledgeable in the current market that you do? So integrity, that's a big one. I know, especially in a shifting market like this, one of the things that we see is there's actually a study out there that talks about different fields, and what people think of those different fields. And unfortunately, realtors are down toward the bottom of the list as far as how clients or how the general public feels about the real estate profession. So integrity, where you're willing to do what's best for your clients over what's best for you, is super important, and doing things the right way. So there's not going to be lawsuits later. There's not going to be problems later. That's huge. Um, remaining calm and keeping clients grounded. I think we can all agree that the last couple of years have been a little bit emotionally charged, for everyone. It's not been for most people a super fun process to try to find a house. You're in bidding wars, you're having to do things that make you uncomfortable. Everything's moving at a million miles an hour. And you put all those things together with somebody who probably hasn't done this for a little while, and it's a different market. And you're like, I don't remember it being this hard or this stressful. They need somebody who can keep them calm, keep them grounded, keep them, moving forward in the appropriate manner, but also that they can take the weight off of their shoulders and be like, look, you worry about these things. Here's all the stuff that I do, so you don't have to worry about that. Don't stress, sleep easy, everything's going to be fine. And that's, the old adage of, a lot of times what a realtor is more like a counselor, where you're going through and you're listening to them and you're keeping their emotions in check in order to get them through this. That's never been more present than the last couple of years. But we'll get into where we're going to use this stuff. But I like to be able to go through, and here's something I'm also going to put on you that you don't have to write down right now. But if you have one of these, it's great. So you say, okay, this is what my clients appreciate most about me. And then what I'd like you to do is think of a story or a situation recently where a client actually either said that to you or you did something. So basically, instead of just saying like, well, my clients say that I'm great at keeping them calm and I'm great at keeping them grounded. Instead of saying that, I'd be like, so I was in this transaction 2 months ago with the Smiths. And what was happening with the Smiths is there were 24 other offers. We had to waive the inspection contingency. We were right at the top of their budget, so they were kind of freaking out a little bit. And this is common in the last market, and I know that's shifting now. But let me tell you how we went through and dove into it. And then you talk about, how you kept them grounded, how you did walk through the process so they felt comfortable. You showed them, how the house is going to continue to appreciate. So basically give a case study instead of just using general words. And so anytime you can say like, for example, this is how it worked, it's going to resonate and it's going to stick with those clients. So let's dive on to the next one here. I know we're kind of eating up time here, so I want to let you guys have a chance to see everything. So my promise to my clients, this is where I know Angie said integrity was one of the things that's important to her, one of the things her clients appreciate about her. But what is it that you promise you will do for your clients this year? And things that I traditionally see in here, and I would like this for it to be personal to you, but things that I see, I promise to my clients, one, to be a fiduciary. If I see something that I don't think is in my client's best interest, I will advise them as so. And even if I don't get a paycheck and they end up walking away or something bad happens, like that's fine. You're doing what's best for them. The other one is availability. I've seen a lot of people talk about availability. I've had a lot of like when it's promises to clients, it's I promise I will make sure that I dot every I and cross every T so they can rest easy. There's a lot of different things that you can do to promise to your clients, but when you're going into a listing appointment or when you're going into a buyer consultation, I want you to be able to articulate, this is my promise to you, and this is what I will do to you to make this experience the best way or best one you can possibly have. I'll give you guys just another second to write stuff here. All right, I'm going to move on to the next one. And these are actually my favorites. When I talk about why you, I always love to, and this is a super hard one, but I always love to put you guys on the spot when we sit down, say, okay, I'm sitting in a room full of agents right now. I'm on a webinar here we had, I believe, 150 agents sign up. We've got, about half that on the webinar. If I'm sitting in a room with all of you, what makes you different from all the other agents that are on this call? And I would like to say, once again, communication and knowledge, I think, are the minimum bar. If you're doing those things, I think that's fantastic. Continue to do that. Well, actually, you have to continue to do that. But what are the things that make you different from other agents? Some things I've seen are, and one of my favorite compelling statements that I ever heard, actually, I'll give you two examples. One was a client we were working with. He was actually out of Las Vegas, and he was working with one of my team members down there. And he said, I find homes that appreciate 15% faster than other homes in the market. And what we're trying to do with this differentiating statement or this differentiating portion is to get the person you're talking to say, wow, how do you do that? Or I want that. Or, what is it that makes you so special? And in this situation, what this person did is they were finding the next up and coming markets. They were looking for places where people were going, and they were trying to get ahead of it. And it was working, and it got him a lot of clients. Another one this is one of my all-time favorites from here in Portland, was we had a client that said, well, when it comes to real estate, I'm OCD and ADD all at the same time. So, and I'm like, okay, well, that's interesting. Tell me more on that. And what she said, well, I'm OCD to the point where I can't just, sit back and have any, I that's not dotted or T that's not crossed. My paperwork's always perfect. Like everything has to be perfect and in order. And I'm ADD to the standpoint where I can't just sit back and wait things for come to me. So I'm always going to be proactively reaching them out. I'm always going to be like looking for what's coming next. And based on those two things, I'm almost never surprised by something that happens. And I almost never have something bad happen right at the end because I'm already on top of it. And I was like, all right, that is something that's super interesting. Other things that I've seen is, having a fantastic design eye where you can walk into just about any house and be like, all right, change this furniture, change those colors, change these lights. It will be a completely different looking house. So basically think staging. There's other ones where it's like, I have a contractor background. I can walk in any house and be like, all right, take out that wall, put in a bathroom here, flip this kitchen, move those stairs. This is going to be a whole new house. Like those are skills that everyone does not have. So think about the skill set and the things that you have that other agents don't have. And lastly, this is, I like to tie this last question into the what's most important. What is the most important thing? So you already talked about the things you do for yourself. You already talked about the things that you're going to do for your relationships. You've talked about the most important things that you're going to do for your business. What's the most important thing that you do for your clients? Now, examples of this is, I've heard, everything from kind of and I hate to call it a cliche, but I've heard I help people, succeed in the American dream of home ownership. I've had people where it's, I allow people to find stability through a mortgage payment that they can now have a family, or they can stay in one place and not worry about having to move later because they get priced out. I've heard things like the most important thing I do for my client is I create a relationship that will be there for life. So they will always be able to call me no matter what they need, even if it's not buying or selling a house. I've heard a lot of different kind of iterations on this, and I don't like to necessarily tell you what you should put down. I want you to think about, when you talk to your clients, what is the most important thing that you do for your clients? And as always, I'm looking for people to be brave and throw things in the chat box, but you don't have to. I love to see what people feel inside, because this is, for me, this is what I think I think this is a feeling too. Like, what is it that you feel is super important, that gets to the heart of why you do this? All right, so now we've gone through the foundational parts of, okay, this is why I get up in the morning. This is why I'm going to continue to do this job. We've gone through and done the analysis of, okay, here's what's worked, here's what hasn't, and here's what I'm going to try this year. We now just dove into okay, now I know why I'm doing it. What are the things that I'm going to say to people, or what are the things that I'm going to do in order to articulate why they should work with me? So communication, connection, getting in front of people. We want to be able to articulate this stuff inside of your buyer presentation. And I would put these why you. I like this why you questions. I'm going to go back one. What your clients appreciate about you. I put that in both your buyer and your listing presentation. This can be done either through putting in some reviews or you just articulating it. I would put your promise in there to talk about how you're going to interact with them. I would talk about why working with you is different than every other agent out there. And then, to tie in kind of the promise, like what's most important is, this is what I'm going to do for you as a client. This is the most important thing I do for the people that choose to work with me. So lastly, we have to get to, all right, what am I actually going to do? And what am I going to commit to doing on a go forward basis? Now, the last 2 pages are actually part of a bigger, I did pull these from Breakthrough Broker, so I want to give them some kudos. They have kind of a cool marketing action plan. But I want to go through this portion, and I want to be very clear with this. You don't have to go through and outline what you're going to do on every day. But what I'm looking for you to do, and I want to stick this back to the 2 to 3 things. I want you just to write down in the week, and it doesn't even, don't worry about the days. What is something that you're going to commit to do, an activity every single day? And we want 2 to 3 of these things. Examples are, I'm going to send out 3 text messages to people inside of my database. I'm going to make, 1 call, 2 text messages, and 2 personal emails out to people in my database. I'm going to go to coffee 3 times a week, with people inside of my database, whatever those things are. But come up with something that, and here's another little caveat to this. It needs to be something small and simple, traditionally done inside of 2 hours at the most, potentially even 1 hour, that you can continue to do even when you're really busy transactionally. And this is not something that you should be doing where it's inbound. This is outbound. This is you reaching out, or this is making an effort to go talk to people or do something. So this could be, I know video is something we talked about earlier. Maybe you're going to make a weekly video. Traditionally, I wouldn't say that's something you do on a daily. We'll get to what that is. But inside of week 1, what is something on a daily basis, or 2 to 3 things that you'll do daily that will continue to keep you in front of your people, or that will continue to be generating business? It could be, for you that are on teams or that have bigger things, it could be like, I'm going to spend an hour circle prospecting, or I'm going to be spending an hour just doing lead gen every single day. Something along those lines also makes sense. But something that you're going to block time out for and that you're willing to do on a daily basis. Don't worry about the monthly budget. That's on this thing by nature, or by the design, but I don't traditionally dive into that in this presentation necessarily. But what I do want to put in there is, okay, we talked about something you're going to do daily. What's something you're going to do on a monthly basis? So these are traditionally a little bigger thing. This can be, I'm going to create a newsletter. I'm going to send out, a farm. I'm going to do, 20 pop buys. It's going to be, whatever those things you're going to do. What is something you're going to do on a monthly basis? So this is usually, like I said, a little bit bigger, takes a little more planning, takes a little more effort, probably takes a little more money, but something monthly you're going to do to take the message that you just created on the last portion and get it out to your people. And once again, if anybody has something they're trying to put in there on either a monthly video is actually a great monthly thing. It seems like it'd be easy. And if you're a natural person that just can jump in front of the camera and put something out on social, that's a different story. But if you're trying to get something, curated on a monthly basis, then video could be something you want to do monthly also. And then lastly, this isn't on this page, but going back to your start portion, if there's something bigger that you want to do that's more than monthly, this could be something you're trying to do either, quarterly, annually, even, twice a year. So biannually, you can write that down here too. But traditionally, those are just bigger things that I leave kind of on the start, or I leave that in the continue portion of the business planning. But what we want to do, these are activities that you can continue to do on a daily basis. Something bigger that then is monthly is what we want to write down here. And one of the things that we have done here at WFG is we actually created something for you called the WFG Client Advantage. And I want to show you this. And basically what this is this something that's being built out on a monthly basis. And it's distributed through our WFG sales reps. So the only way you can get this is to talk to one of our WFG sales reps. But every month we're going to build something out that will look similar to these things. And what it's going to be is you'll have an email, or the thing on the top left. It could be an email, it could be a video script, it could be a blog post, it could be a letter you actually mail, but it's very specifically curated to create conversations, to position you as not just, a buddy or a friend, but to take you and elevate you in status as a professional, much like their financial planner. And so these are all done by us. We can give them to you in a Word document, so you can actually you can go through and edit them up to sound more like you, or to make it a little more personalized. But you don't have to. You can literally hit copy, paste, and send, and get this out to your database on a monthly basis. We're also going to give you a text alternative. So if you're looking for a way just to go through and text your clients, we have that as well. And we'll give you a couple of templates where you can actually use this on social as well. So once again, if you need help with how I'm going to reach out to these people and how I'm going to stay up to date with them, talk to your WFG sales rep. We do have this cool program called the WFG Client Advantage, and this does make it easy, where literally copy, paste, send is all you have to do, and you're staying out in front of your people. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead. I'll put this up here. If anybody wants to connect with me, go ahead and scan this. This is my YouTube channel, my Facebook page, my Instagram page, all the good stuff there. But I will now open it up. I know we're running up against time, so if you have any questions, throw them in the chat or throw them in the Q&A, and I am happy to answer those for you.